In the distant reaches of space, the Kandar Dominion had long established itself as a force to be feared. With an empire spanning countless star systems, their reach had never been challenged. Planets, one after another, had fallen under their command without resistance. They conquered efficiently, methodically, with no need for emotion or second thoughts. It was just the way things were. When they turned their attention to Earth, it was no different. To them, this small blue planet was just another in a long line of acquisitions. Their initial scans of Earth's atmosphere and technological infrastructure confirmed their assumptions. Humanity's most advanced weapons were barely more than relics in comparison to the Kandar Dominion's energy shields and plasma-based artillery. It was all laughably primitive. This backwater planet held no significant resources or strategic advantage beyond expansion for the sake of expansion. Earth would be easy pickings, a minor inconvenience on their way to more significant conquests. The invasion fleet moved toward Earth with full confidence. Their leaders gave no second thoughts to their victory. As the alien fleet entered Earth's orbit, they detected no sign of advanced planetary defenses. Satellites drifted lazily in the planet's upper atmosphere, collecting weather data or broadcasting communication signals, useless against the impending invasion. Below, Earth's cities bustled with life, oblivious to the coming storm. It was just another day on Earth, but for the Kandar Dominion, it was the start of what they believed would be a quick operation. They initiated their plans without hesitation. The command ships dispatched smaller craft to descend into Earth's atmosphere. The invasion was set to be clean, controlled, and by the book. Key cities across the globe would be targeted first: capitals, economic hubs, and military installations. The Kandar Dominion planned to cripple Earth's infrastructure in one swift motion, overwhelming any resistance before it even had a chance to organize. They would offer humanity a simple choice: submit, or be eradicated. On the surface, human governments scrambled to respond to the unidentified objects descending from the sky. The first wave of the invasion began as expected. Kandar forces landed and began asserting control in cities like New York, Tokyo, and Berlin. Earth's conventional military forces mobilized, but against the alien shields and energy weapons, it was like throwing stones at a fortress. The initial skirmishes were as one-sided as the invaders had anticipated. Tanks and jets were obliterated effortlessly by alien craft. Panic spread quickly among Earth's population as cities fell into chaos. But the Kandar Dominion had made a grave mistake. While they dismissed Earth's technology and military strength, they overlooked a key factor: humanity itself. The invaders had encountered no species quite like the humans. Other civilizations they had conquered had fallen quickly, either too weak to resist or too frightened to fight back. But humans were different. Where other species folded in the face of overwhelming power, humans grew more dangerous. They adapted, improvised, and fought with a tenacity that no data could have predicted. As the first waves of the invasion seemed to go according to plan, something began to shift. The Kandar ground forces expected to see total surrender, but instead, they encountered resistance, small at first, but growing. Earth's military forces, though initially crushed, began to regroup. What the Kandar soldiers hadn't accounted for was humanity's capacity for guerrilla warfare. Unlike the regimented battles they were used to, humans fought in unpredictable ways. Urban environments became a maze, with resistance fighters ambushing Kandar patrols from every corner. Civilians, not just soldiers, began to take up arms. Homemade explosives, sabotage missions, and hit-and-run tactics disrupted the alien supply lines and confused their forces. The Kandar commanders had never faced such chaotic resistance. Their tactics were designed for clean, orderly battles, not the mess of urban guerrilla warfare. Every attempt to regain control was met with human ingenuity. Humanity was not fighting to win a battle, they were fighting for survival, and that made them dangerous. In the skies, Earth's outdated aircraft found new purpose. Pilots used the terrain to their advantage, flying low between skyscrapers and through mountain valleys to avoid alien radar. Even civilian hackers began to play a role, infiltrating alien communications and spreading disinformation, sowing confusion among the invaders. What had begun as a routine operation for the Kandor Dominion was quickly becoming a nightmare. The humans, despite their apparent lack of advanced weaponry, were proving to be a far more difficult foe than the Dominion had anticipated. The more they pressed, the more resistance they encountered. The situation on Earth was deteriorating, but not in the way the Kandor Dominion expected. What was meant to be a swift takeover had devolved into chaos. For the first time, the alien forces found themselves at a loss. Their standard methods of war, superior firepower, overwhelming force, and strict command hierarchies, were not working. The humans were proving maddeningly elusive, slipping through their grasp like sand. Every time they thought they had a city under control, resistance fighters would strike again from the shadows, disappearing before the aliens could retaliate. Human adaptability was the key. While Kandor forces relied on structured formations and strict chains of command, humans embraced unpredictability. Civilians, militias, and remnants of Earth's military were working together in ways that no alien species had ever done. Their disorganized, fragmented fighting style confounded the alien commanders, who were used to rigid, disciplined adversaries. Humans didn't fight fair, they fought to win. The Kandor Dominion's tactical brilliance, which had crushed so many worlds before, was becoming its downfall. They had no answer for the unconventional tactics Earth's defenders employed. Roads and buildings were rigged with traps. Bridges, crucial to the aliens' ground transport, were destroyed at key moments, cutting off supply lines and leaving entire Kandor battalions stranded. Every environment on Earth became a weapon. In dense forests, alien patrols vanished without a trace, ambushed by guerrilla fighters who knew the land better than the invaders ever could. The deserts became death traps, with sandstorms wiping out entire squads before they even realized they were under attack. In the cities, where alien armor and weaponry should have been most effective, humans used the towering buildings to their advantage, creating snipers' nests and ambush zones that devastated alien foot soldiers. Even Earth's unpredictable weather became an unintentional ally. Fierce storms, lightning, and floods wreaked havoc on the aliens' advanced equipment, which had never been designed for such chaotic conditions. Earth was fighting back in ways the aliens had never anticipated, and it was costing them dearly. Human hackers joined the fight, not with guns but with their minds. Using nothing more than repurposed civilian tech, they began infiltrating the alien communication systems. It wasn't long before they figured out how to intercept and distort the signals the Kandor Dominion relied on to coordinate their forces. Misinformation spread through the alien ranks like wildfire. Alien commanders found themselves chasing ghosts, phantom resistance cells that didn't exist, false reports of human surrenders that turned out to be traps, and decoys designed to lead them into ambushes. The humans had mastered the art of psychological warfare. More than just confusing the aliens, the humans understood that fear could be a weapon. They exploited the alien soldiers' growing sense of unease. Mysterious broadcasts played over hijacked alien frequencies, suggesting secret human weapons and underground armies. Resistance fighters whispered rumors of human super soldiers and hidden bases filled with advanced technology that Earth had been hiding all along. None of it was true, but the psychological impact was real. The invaders began to fear that they had underestimated their enemy in ways far beyond what they could comprehend. For the first time, the alien soldiers, who had once marched confidently into battle, started looking over their shoulders. Paranoia took hold. They expected ambushes at every turn, questioned every order, and doubted their leadership. The psychological toll on the alien troops was palpable. They had never faced an enemy like this. A species that fought with everything they had, not just with weapons, but with their minds. The human resistance, though fragmented and seemingly chaotic, became stronger with every small victory. Entire towns and cities, once under alien control, were reclaimed piece by piece. The invaders, now bogged down in a fight they never expected, began to realize they were facing an enemy they did not understand. They had assumed Earth was weak, but it was becoming increasingly clear that humans had a will to fight unlike anything the Kandor Dominion had encountered before. In desperation, alien commanders ordered more troops to the surface. They escalated their attacks, using brutal force in an attempt to stamp out the resistance. But the harder they pushed, the more they lost. For every building they destroyed, every city block they seized, more human fighters rose up from the rubble, more determined than ever. The humans had nothing left to lose, and that made them dangerous beyond measure. The longer the invasion dragged on, the more resources the Kandar Dominion had to divert to Earth. What was supposed to be a quick victory had become a costly quagmire. Supplies were running low, morale was deteriorating, and the fleet in orbit was being forced to deal with constant disruptions from human saboteurs. Still, the Kandar Dominion was not yet ready to admit defeat. They were an empire that had never known failure. But the growing realization was inescapable: Earth wasn't defenseless, it was a trap. And the aliens had walked right into it. As the invasion stretched on, the alien commanders, desperate to understand the source of humanity's resilience, turned to research. They had grossly underestimated Earth's inhabitants, and it was time to uncover why. Their analysts dove into the history of humanity, and what they found left them both confused and alarmed. Human history, they discovered, was defined by conflict. For thousands of years, humans had waged war not just with external threats, but with each other. Empires had risen and fallen, revolutions had swept across continents, and entire civilizations had been built on the ashes of the ones that came before. From primitive tribal skirmishes to global wars that spanned continents, humanity had always fought, sometimes for power, sometimes for survival, and sometimes for reasons that were incomprehensible to the alien mind. This endless cycle of conflict had forged something unique within the human species. While other races in the galaxy had experienced occasional wars, humanity had known nothing but struggle. They were survivors, shaped by a history of hardship, and that made them inherently dangerous. The Kandar Dominion had never faced an enemy who thrived on adversity the way humans did. Each new discovery about Earth's past sent waves of unease through the alien command. They learned of Earth's world wars, cataclysmic events that had nearly destroyed entire nations, only for those same nations to rebuild stronger than before. The Kandar analysts were baffled. They saw no logic in it. How a species could bring itself to the brink of annihilation, only to come back more united, more determined. The nuclear standoff of the Cold War was another revelation that stunned the aliens. Humanity had lived for decades under the constant threat of total destruction, and yet they had continued to advance, to innovate, and most disturbingly, to thrive. The deeper the aliens dug into human history, the more unsettled they became. They uncovered the horrors of civil wars, genocides, and revolutions, all of which should have broken humanity. But they hadn't. Instead, humanity had grown more resilient. It was a species that refused to be destroyed, no matter the odds. The Kandar Dominion could not understand this. Their empire had been built on order, control, and overwhelming power. The humans, by contrast, seemed to grow stronger through chaos and destruction. But it wasn't just the wars that alarmed the aliens. It was how humanity fought them. They learned that humans didn't fight in rigid, predictable ways. Their battles were as chaotic as their history. They adapted to their enemies, evolving their tactics and strategies with each new conflict. Where the Kandar Dominion had one way of waging war, humans had hundreds. They were unpredictable, relentless, and willing to do whatever it took to win, even if it meant sacrificing everything. This revelation terrified the Kandar leadership. The humans had faced threats far greater than themselves, yet they had never given up. When faced with overwhelming odds, they didn't surrender. They found new ways to fight. The alien commanders realized that Earth's history of war had created a species that was uniquely prepared for a situation like this. Humans weren't just fighters, they were survivors. As the aliens pored over the data, they came to another unsettling conclusion: they weren't dealing with a civilization on the brink of collapse. They were dealing with one that had been forged in fire, tested time and time again, and come out stronger every time. The longer this conflict dragged on, the stronger humanity's resolve would become. What the Kandar Dominion had thought would be an easy victory was slowly becoming an impossible fight. The more they learned, the more they realized they were fighting an enemy that couldn't be broken in the ways they had relied on for so long. Other species had crumbled under the weight of the Kandar invasion, surrendering when faced with overwhelming power. But humanity was different. The aliens now understood that humans had faced destruction before, many times, and each time they had risen from the ashes. The alien commanders couldn't shake the feeling that this invasion was playing out in the same way. Every attempt to crush the humans only made them more determined. This was not how wars were supposed to go. In their long history of conquest, the Kandor Dominion had never encountered such a resilient species. Their research had initially been an attempt to identify weaknesses, to find a way to break the humans' will to fight. But the more they learned, the more they realized that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to endure, to adapt, and to come back from the brink of destruction. It wasn't their technology, their weapons, or their numbers, it was their spirit. And that spirit, the aliens now understood, was far more dangerous than any weapon. The alien leadership, once so confident in their victory, began to question the wisdom of this invasion. If history was any guide, the humans wouldn't just resist, they would find a way to turn the tide. The Kandor Dominion was beginning to learn a lesson that had taken many civilizations on Earth centuries to understand: humanity, when pushed to the edge, would always fight back. And they would do it with everything they had. Fear began to spread among the alien ranks. Soldiers who had once marched into battle with confidence now hesitated. Commanders who had once planned to celebrate Earth's quick surrender were starting to wonder if this invasion would be the beginning of their empire's downfall. The more they learned about humanity, the clearer it became that they had made a critical error. They had underestimated their enemy, and now they were paying the price. The humans had been seen as defenseless, weak, and unworthy of the Kandor Empire's full attention. But now, after delving into Earth's past, the aliens understood the truth. Humans were not weak. They were survivors, forged through centuries of conflict, and they had become masters of turning the tide when all hope seemed lost. For the first time, the alien commanders began to consider the unthinkable: retreat. As the alien commanders weighed their options, one thing became increasingly clear: they had severely miscalculated. What was meant to be a swift conquest had spiraled into a costly and prolonged engagement. The Kandor Dominion, known for their overwhelming power and ruthless efficiency, found themselves bogged down by a species they had underestimated from the very beginning. Earth was supposed to fall easily, but now it had become a battleground that the aliens could no longer control. The humans, in contrast, were only growing stronger. Every failed attempt by the aliens to suppress the resistance was met with even fiercer retaliation. What began as isolated acts of defiance had evolved into a coordinated global effort. Guerrilla warfare had turned into an all-out offensive. The fragmented human forces were no longer merely defending their cities, they were taking back control. Towns, once under alien occupation, were being liberated one by one. Earth's resistance fighters had learned quickly. Each battle against the invaders revealed new weaknesses in the alien ranks, and the humans exploited them with brutal precision. Alien supply lines were cut, leaving entire divisions without resources. Alien technology, once thought impenetrable, was being hacked, repurposed, and turned against the invaders. Human engineers had figured out how to reverse engineer alien weaponry, using it to level the playing field. The alien troops, once confident and invincible, were now on the defensive. Skirmishes that had once been one-sided massacres were now deadly standoffs, with human forces proving to be just as resourceful as they were relentless. Every alien victory was costly, every advance met with unexpected counterattacks. The humans fought not just with their weapons, but with their minds. They adapted faster than the aliens could plan, using deception, ingenuity, and sheer determination to outmaneuver an enemy far more technologically advanced than themselves. The alien commanders, faced with a war they had never anticipated, began to lose control of their forces. Communication failures, sabotaged equipment, and the increasing demoralization of their troops turned a once organized invasion into a disaster. Troops stationed across Earth found themselves cut off from reinforcements, isolated, and vulnerable. For the first time, alien commanders started issuing retreat orders, pulling back from the most heavily contested areas in an attempt to regroup. But retreat wasn't an option for long. The human counteroffensive was gaining momentum, and the resistance fighters, once scattered and disorganized, had unified into a formidable force. Nations that had once been divided by politics and borders were now united by a singular goal, driving the invaders off their planet. Military leaders from across the globe had banded together, pooling their resources, knowledge, and tactics. The final blow to the alien invasion came not from brute force, but from humanity's intelligence. Hackers, working around the clock, had infiltrated the alien fleet's communication systems. They disrupted commands, scrambled signals, and sowed chaos among the ranks. Entire alien battalions found themselves receiving conflicting orders. Some were told to advance into traps, others were sent on missions to non-existent locations. The confusion was complete, and with their chain of command in disarray, the alien forces began to crumble from within. What had begun as an orderly invasion had devolved into chaos, with alien troops abandoning their posts, fleeing their positions, or surrendering outright. Earth's forces pressed their advantage, retaking city after city, reclaiming territory that had been lost in the early days of the invasion. The humans, emboldened by their success, showed no mercy. They had learned that the only way to ensure their survival was to eradicate the invaders completely. In the skies above, the alien fleet, once a symbol of the Kandor Dominion's superiority, now faced its own reckoning. Human engineers, using the knowledge gained from hacking alien systems, had managed to disable several of the fleet's key ships. Without central command, the alien forces in orbit were left vulnerable. Earth's remaining air forces launched a coordinated strike, targeting the alien ships with every weapon they had. The sky above Earth turned into a battlefield, and despite the odds, humanity began to prevail. It wasn't long before the alien leadership realized they had no choice but to retreat. What should have been an easy victory had become a catastrophic defeat. The Kandor Dominion, for the first time in its long history of conquest, was forced to admit defeat and pull its forces back. The decision was met with bitterness and shame among the alien commanders, but they had no other option. Earth had proven to be too costly, too dangerous to subdue. As the alien fleet began its retreat from Earth's atmosphere, the message was clear: Earth had won. The invaders, who had once dismissed humanity as weak and insignificant, had learned to fear them. Earth, despite its perceived technological inferiority, had stood its ground and driven out one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. Word of Earth's victory spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Other species, who had long lived under the threat of the Kandor Dominion, began to take notice. The once mighty empire, which had crushed countless civilizations, had been humbled by a species they had considered beneath them. Earth, the defenseless planet, was now a symbol of defiance, of resilience, and of the indomitable human spirit. In the aftermath of the invasion, Earth remained united. The scars of the war were deep, but humanity had emerged stronger than ever. The message was clear: humanity was not to be underestimated. They had survived the unthinkable, and in doing so, had sent a warning to the rest of the galaxy. Earth would not be conquered. And so, the Kandor Dominion retreated, leaving Earth undefeated. But the lesson they had learned would not soon be forgotten. Earth was no longer seen as a weak, primitive planet. It was now known as a world where even the most powerful invaders could be brought to their knees. In the end, the invaders had learned the most valuable lesson of all: Earth was not defenseless. And no one would ever dare try to conquer it again.